Good evening, everyone. I would like to call to order the Tuesday, June 6th, 2023 Design Review Board meeting. And the first order of business today would be the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd stand and do that with us.
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, I'd like to introduce our staff and our board.
Shubha Jangam, Senior Planner.
Michael Carterman, Planner 2.
Doug Haney, Bethany Way.
Reed KC, Bethany Road.
Charlie Roberts, Freemanville Road.
Ken Warlick, Hipworth Road.
Rachel Greathouse, Hickory Flat.
All right, with that done, I'd like to get the board to approve or amend as needed the agenda for tonight.
I'm making a motion to approve the agenda for tonight.
Do I have a second?
No, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next, I'd like to get the approval of the prior minutes of last month's meeting, the meeting of May 2nd, 2023. Any adjustments, any changes, any additions?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the May 2nd Design Review Board.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. All right. Then we're into our agenda here. And first item on the agenda is 5A, and that is demolition of structures. And so I'll call the case 5A, 15675 Row Road. Is the applicant here?
Hello. Paul Bird, 15675 Row Road, applying for a demo permit.
You want to say anything else?
How did I do?
I think you did excellent. Actually, we're going to do a film on how to do that. That's
A little bit of
excellent.
coaching, Michael and Shuba, thank you. I was a rookie and just kind of put some stuff together. And
Yeah,
great
no,
to hear.
we've got our package, and clearly, while this is a very cute little house, we're all for you demoing it and putting something bigger and better there. So I will now ask, is there any opposition to this?
No.
Hearing no opposition, I'm going to close the public hearing and turn this over to our board for any discussion they may have. Rachel, what do you think? Want to make a motion?
Sure. Let's see, I make a motion to approve the agenda number 5A of the birdhouse demo on Row Road.
Do I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Go Braves.
Oh, wow.
Motion
I was a little
carries.
nervous. That was easy. Thank you so
Well,
much.
you were easy, and it's an easy decision, so it's nice to get it done.
I appreciate it.
Good luck with your property, and we're excited for you to move forward.
Thank you.
All right, next item, we're moving to courtesy reviews, item 6A. In courtesy reviews, we are reviewing and recommending to either council or BZA or planning commission. So our discussion will be only a recommendation. First case I'll call is 6A, 3450 Hamby Road. Is the applicant here?
Yes.
All right, now we had a good example there about keeping it simple.
Good evening, afternoon. My name is Tammy Uri, and this is James Uri, my husband. And we're here for 3450 Hamby Road for special use permit for alternative senior housing for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. 4 residents we're proposing to reside in that home at 3450 Hamby.
All right, I'm going to recommend that we hear from the board and any comments they got, but I'd like to put on the record that this is going to Planning Commission and City Council. So we probably have the least to say. And I think it's a good use. And I think everybody else here would think that. Any objection on the board to this?
Have you guys been in front of us before?
We have Cogburn Road.
Cogburn Road, yeah.
Yes.
So none of us have any objections, so we're going to recommend that Planning Commission and City Council review this, and we'll rely on them to make the right decision. So thank you for coming in, and sorry it was so short, but you don't have a negative, so you leave happy.
Thank you.
Go to an early dinner, right? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, do you have a public comment?
Oh, we thought we had no opposition. So normally we would not do that, but we're going to reopen the public hearing. If you two would come back up. You've made your presentation. I'm going to re-ask the question to staff. Is there any opposition?
We have a public comment here from Ms. Cara. Oh, she has opposition. Yes, Ms. Cara, yeah.
So we do have opposition. So if you two, the public hearing's open. If you two would sit down for a minute, we'd like to hear from the opposition.
I live on Hamby Road. And one thing I'd like to know is I didn't plan to come and speak here today, but I'm happy that I am here and having this opportunity. I filled out the survey that saying, what is your image of Milton? That's what was sent out to all residents. The image of Milton to me, and the reason people come to live in Milton, is not to live next to a commercial group home. It's for people to have a residence there and grow their families there and to live there, not to be used as a commercial piece of property for profit.
So I want to be clear on the record. You are the adjacent homeowner?
No, I live down the street,
Okay, you're not the adjacent.
not adjacent, no.
Okay.
But I have spoken to many of my neighbors on Hamby Road. It's, like I said, a residential area. They are also opposed to this. This is not something we want on our road where we live. And again, not the image that I think Milton should be trying to represent to bring in more residents into Milton.
All right,
Which is what?
let me interrupt you.
Okay,
Not to cut you short, but we do not have a vote. We're the design review board.
right.
This is a courtesy that we look at.
Sure.
I hear you. And I would tell you to gather up your friends and neighbors on Hamby, and you want to go to planning commission, they do vote, and council votes.
Okay.
And many times these kind of courtesy reviews do have some architecture or fencing or barns or things that we need to look at. This case doesn't have it. It's all about use, and we have no vote on use,
Okay.
only planning commission.
Can I ask a quick question? Is the only reason this coming before us because of that existing edge of the concrete
No,
being in
it's
the?
coming because it's a workflow. That's how it's designed to go on a design review board and then go to planning commission and then go to council.
Because some things do have
Right.
issues that we may want to ring in on.
It's
What was-
more like a public hearing, multiple levels of public hearings
Got it.
until a decision is made.
But because there's no architectural modification or anything like that to it, we essentially,
Yep.
I think what Charlie said, our board doesn't have the teeth to approve or deny what you're seeking. But what his recommendation is that you go and have more than yourself show up to the planning commission
Okay.
and voice that opinion.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I
And
appreciate
to
it.
really kind of get started with this, and we want all of our citizens to ring in, that it's just important to ring in at the right two meetings. Sometimes we do have, as Doug says, things we want to ring in on, then our recommendation goes on to the other two. I don't. This is more of a legal issue, a land use issue,
Sure.
and we're not in authority to pass judgment on that. So that's why I just said, not to cut you off, but to save your energy and focus it at planning commission and council.
And I'll do so. I just wanted to be present so that it was known.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And-
Thank you.
And Shuba, they can also submit written
Yes.
letters too. I would round those up from all your neighbors.
Yeah, and those letters will be read at the hearing.
That's all.
Thank you for coming. Now, you two might come back up. And yes, sir, you have a. You don't have to be there. It's more impactful if you are, but the letters will be read to planning commission and to council.
Oh, no, it will have their, yeah, it'll have their name and address on the letter. So if someone writes a letter, they have to identify who they are and their address, where they live. But to that end, letters of opposition or support should all be written and submitted, right?
They become part of public record when you send it as an email or letter to council. In addition, you can feel free to come and talk about it. Yeah.
And if it seems like there is some opposition, it might be helpful if you guys get together with maybe that opposition before you go in front of the planning commission.
Yeah.
So Reed makes a very good point. You obviously have some opposition. The more of that you discuss and try to find compromise before you're in front of planning commission, the better for you. And the better for them, really. Because at the end of the day, planning commission and council really wants everybody to be in accord and at work if it's going to work. So with that all said, thank you for coming. I think it was a good exercise for you to see where you are. But again, we don't pass on land use in these two issues. That's planning commission and council. So with that said, I'm going to close the public hearing, and we are not sending a recommendation forward, Shuba. Just, we don't feel we have the authority to make this decision
Okay.
or to make a recommendation.
My question is, do you accept the design that we've submitted?
Yes, yes. You know, it's a bigger land use council. Our planning commission may have you come back to us if it gets passed. That may be something they ask for. But right now, for us to start ringing in on your design when you don't have your use, I think. And then our community development director and staff will be looking at anything you're wanting to permit, and they can ring in on it also.
Shuba, is there anything specific we need to be looking at here?
Actually, I thought you're not doing any exterior work, so there was no.
This is just a parking pad or some sort of a ADA compliance.
Reed, let me jump in on one comment. So one of the conditions is it has to maintain the appearance of a single-family home. That's one of the conditions of alternative senior housing. So you could comment on that if you'd like.
It is a single.
Correct.
But I have enough in front of us to really make a comment. We just got a couple pictures.
I really think we should move on, and we've done what we can do.
All right, thank you.
So thank you for coming in, and good luck with what you're doing. All right, next case is 7A. And we've moved now to final review, so we will be voting on this, and we will have comments on this. 7A is 12920 Highway 9. Is that applicant here?
Yes, Mr. David.
It's our good friend, the architect.
Good evening. I'm David Matheny, and I have an architectural firm in Athens, Georgia at 330 Research Drive. So I finally was able to wrangle control of this. And so I'm not sure what came
Let me get
before-
on the record, if I may interrupt. you.
Sure.
This has come before us before. It's been discussed by the board before. Some few weeks ago, Ken and myself met with this architect and the owner and the contractor on the property. And what keyed my mind to get on the record is, you're right, we had to wrangle your client into seeing your vision, actually. So thank you for having a good vision and wrangling control from him. And if he was here, I'd be saying that.
Yes.
So we have worked together well. You've been great to work with. We've come a long way. And as we get into this, you make your presentation, then I'm going to ask Ken, who was there, to have any discussion he would like to have first and get his input on what he thinks of your drawings. So now move ahead.
Perfect. Thank you. Not knowing what went on completely before that, whatever went on, I apologize for. So that I told them, I said, you're not coming tonight. I'm taking control of this. So what you will see predominantly, I guess.
Can I interrupt again?
Of course.
I need to get on the record that also Shuba was present with Ken and I. So we had a staff member there also. And my memory at my age is somewhat slow. So now I've finally remembered who all was there. Was there anybody else there, Sheila?
No, the owner and another, I think his contractor was there, so.
All right, so now we're clear. We all know who was there, so I won't interrupt you again.
Not a problem. It was a very helpful meeting, and I appreciated that opportunity as well. So basically what you will see on A203 is the crux of this project, which is the renderings of the front and the rear and the left and right sides. What will take place basically is that the basic shell of the building will remain. There will be a new roof put on it. By roof, I mean shingles. But we're working with the existing roof structure. And the existing siding will remain. And we will be reusing the windows that are there, although they may be slightly moved from place to place in order to accomplish particularly the front elevation, where we would be adding some entrance porches, new doors, and again, reusing the windows. And we're adding a little pop of color there with some shutters. The idea then to help identify 3 separate units within this building, therefore 3 separate tenants, and giving them each somewhat of an identity. And then there is an existing deck as you look at the front of the building from the street on the right-hand side, there's an existing deck that we would like to cover so that it could be used in inclement weather as a place for either the tenants or their guests to be able to go. And the materials that we're using, you can see that we're for the roof of for the covered deck, and then also the roofs on the left side of the elevation. We will be creating a cover over an existing walkway that runs inside the inside L of that existing building. And so it needed a cover. So we made a continuous cover, which is also gives you an handicap access to all of those tenants on the left side. And we're using a metal roofing, a 5V metal roofing, galvanized or natural color. And then we've also added to the front and the gable of each of the porches, we're adding a shake material, the appearance of a wood shake. And then we're adding some stone on the columns of each of the lower portion of the columns on each of the front porches, as well then I guess a craftsman style column to sit on top of the stone base. I think that pretty much sums it up. And so I'm hopeful that this is something that will be more appealing to you all and more acceptable as we move forward on this design review.
You might have said it. Are you painting that concrete water table? You do. What is that? Is that just,
painting.
it's no texture to that. It is just a,
No, it's actually, it's stucco. Sorry, it didn't get labeled as such, but it's a painted stucco. And the predominant of that, of course, shows up in the rear elevation.
right.
And
Yeah, I don't think you can see any of that from the street. Doesn't look like it, at least.
You're
or
not
the
changing,
side.
you're not changing that, are you?
no, there was no changes there.
The rear and
And-
the right side elevation.
Yeah, the kind of right side.
And then we did supply a site plan where we will be doing some foundation plantings on the front of the building. Something that will stay low growing because it's not a very high off the ground there at that deck.
Ken, why don't you ring in from where we were to where we are, and what do you think?
Yeah, I just wanted to, say thank you for working with us. This is a stark contrast from the last time we heard this presentation and the details and the drawings that you have provided. Love the landscape plan with the addition of the trees and showing some of the Japanese hollies. I actually, this is kind of exactly what we talked about, exactly what you had kind of shown us and really just brought that to light. I think it's well done. The stucco doesn't bother me because you can't really see it. And even on that right side, there's such a heavy vegetation on there that it's hard to even see it. So the only things that I did have was the columns. So the columns on the right side where you're going to be adding the enclosed structure, and then the columns on the left side of the home. So the left side elevation, you say just 6x6 posts painted. However, they look a little bit more ornamental with some columns and pediments, or with some capitals and pediments, versus the right side elevation is simply just, it still states 6x6 posts painted, but it looks different. So what I would say is I'd recommend those two be similar. I don't think you necessarily need, and I can't tell whether those are round or square
They're square.
columns. I would say those two, in my opinion, should match. And then the other thing is a gutter color. There's existing gutters out there, but obviously they're going to have to be modified, I guess, or so I would just want to notate a gutter color to either match the trim or the shake that you've got going up in those gables. But really, other than that, I think, like I said, a stark contrast from what we saw before.
Does anybody have an issue with the shutters on the left and no on the right?
No, because you can't.
You're talking about on the front elevation?
Oh, there's no room for them.
Yeah, there's
There's
just
probably not any room.
And they're covered. They're under a
Yeah.
covering, and the ones on the left are not. I'm grateful to see symmetry compared to what was brought to us last time, where everything was off center, nothing seemed to line up or make a whole lot of sense. Now you look at the front of the elevation and you go, yeah, it's three separate entrances,
Yeah.
three separate buildings, whatever. It makes way more sense. Just the appearance of it does.
And let me get on record, this is probably a 30-year-old, low-profile, old ranch house, or a very low-level building that we're lucky that it's being upgraded. So,
What was it used for before? Do you
It
know?
was previously a daycare center, but I
daycare?
don't know
I
if
think
it,
I
I
know
don't know
where
if
it
it
is.
transitioned from residential to daycare.
Okay.
And I'm not sure about the history on that, but
it's got a big brick building next to it. And then
Yeah.
so this I think is going to be a good attribute to the existing structure that's there and to the buildings to the left and right in that Highway 9 area. So.
okay, any more discussion? With no more discussion, can I get a motion?
Yeah, I'd make a motion to approve the plan with Ken's recommendation to,
I'm sorry. Is there any opposition to this case?
No.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Hearing no opposition, I'll close the public hearing. And now, Reed, if you'd continue. I'm
I'd
sorry
make-
for interrupting.
That's okay. I'd make a motion to approve the plan at 1290 Highway 9 with the recommendation that the columns on the right match the columns on the left. I don't know what you called it earlier, but squared up with the column trim. And that there's a supplied gutter color that is recommended to staff, that staff approves.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you for your good work and accommodating our meetings and 2 or 3 months of back and forth. You brought a lot to the table. And we really appreciate it. All right. We have we're getting close to the end of tonight's meeting, one of the shortest we've ever had. We have visitors in the audience. Are you here for a particular reason or case?
They've already presented.
So you, okay. All right, with that, then we will move to new business, since we've finished all our other business. And Shuv, I guess this 8A is you?
Yep. So this is just the information that Georgia zoning procedural law now requires the DRB public hearings to be for, especially for demolition and a building review, to be advertised for 30 days at least in the newspaper. So no action on your part, but we have to do that. So until now, we were accepting complete applications like a week before, but we can't do that anymore. You know, they have to be at the office 30 days, actually 40 days, because we have to give them a week ahead of time to be in the newspaper for 30 days. So, you know, it's like,
That's probably a very good new rule,
Yeah.
new law,
Yeah.
and makes your job easier too.
Ken might disagree with that.
I disagree with that. So for a simple demolition that
yep. We still
comes
have-
before us, that
This is-
obviously is an inhabited building,
Yep.
it is law to
The-
broadcast that?
The law is any type of review that ends up into certificate of endorsement. The city usually issues certificate of endorsement, all the things that you approve, demolitions and building and site review.
Chicken house,
Yeah.
shed.
I mean, so all of those are going to require advertisements. And so it does make sense for me actually to actually group them before courtesy review. If I don't know if you are comfortable with that, like all the demos and building reviews, all before courtesy review. If you are okay with it, I can do that, or
Any
I'll
way
leave it
you
as
want,
it is.
any way you want to do it's
Yeah,
fine.
no, that
It helps you.
We're going to hear them all anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
you vote on them, and then courtesy review, just making recommendations, and you can knock them out at the end of the meeting, you know.
So does that mean also, so for a demolition, we'll have to post or publish it in the newspaper, but is there letters sent out to adjacent neighbors within 500 feet as well? Is that part of it, or is it just a sign? Is it something that?
For design review board, just advertisement in newspaper, but there are other expanded requirements for BZA and zoning and use permit stuff like that. They're coming up. For DRB, it's just an advertisement is a new requirement.
Okay.
Thank you, State of Georgia.
Okay. But like you say, it really doesn't change anything we're doing. So,
Yeah, you guys don't have to worry about it.
all right. With that done, do we have any old business?
No.
You want to give the update on
Oh,
district in
Why
Mayfield?
don't, we will give an update on the Mayfield district, and Doug can do that. He was there last night, so why don't you give him the update?
Sure. So District of Mayfield went in front of City Council last night. There were a couple of changes that staff made that I was not aware of. I think Charlie found out maybe the Friday beforehand. So if you recall, we had public areas that were approved to be at 30 by 30. They moved that back to 60 by 60, which was a change. Another change was that the properties that butted up against those civic areas, the parks, gardens, whichever it may be, were to be residences only, whereas we had suggested, the general public really, it was a lot of folks that met and kind of put their input into this, that it could be both residences or businesses. So if you think about, I ended up having this conversation with my wife afterwards about what was that all about? And the example that I gave was, the green that is right at Central City in Alpharetta, where they play cornhole and kids run around. If you look at the size of that, it's rather narrow. It's a little bit deep, but it's rather narrow. And it's right up against Central City Tavern. That's the example of what was originally in there that was then changed and went in front of City Council. So there's some confusion, some concern around that change. And then I'd say the only other kind of sticking point change would have been the height of the buildings. So it had been suggested that maybe 3 stories would be okay, as opposed to the 2.5 stories that had made it up until that point. 3 stories, actually the conversation leading up to that got us to 3 stories was, it's possible, and again, the whole intent of the district initially was to preserve those buildings that are there without making them historical sites, preserve them because they preserve the look and feel of that entire area. But we could foresee a situation like Holmes in downtown Alpharetta, where you've got this old house that's really cool and this old oak tree, and behind that is this massive data scan building that from the street, no one pays attention to that data scan building. They look at that Holmes building and they go, wow, that's such a cool old house, right? And so the thought was, as an example, if behind the flower shop, they said, hey, we have all this extra space back behind there. Let's put a 3-story building and lease it out and put a bunch of businesses in there. They're going to consume, this area during the day when there's not a lot of people. That might make good sense. And there was some concern from council on the 3-story building because it was different than what the original intent was of the district. So I think those are probably the 3 main issues that came out of that. If I have them all right. I don't have any of my notes with me, but
Well, it's because the 3-story though, based on city of Milton, is like 20 foot, and
Well, the
and
first,
there's the basement issue and the attic issue and what counts
Yeah.
as a
Because
story. Is a 3-story really going to look like a 5-story?
well, because like the Reliant building,
Right.
it
So
was
how do we
3
curtail
stories,
that?
but that thing is 60 feet tall, right?
so the first story can be maximum 25, and the second and third story is going to be 14 and 14. So maximum really 39. And what's different, it proposed in District of Mayfield than the other crabapple area is that the basement and the attic both gonna count if they exist.
Is it from the ridge or from the mean roof line? Median roof?
Average grade level. So the, what is it? Strawberry Field, I forgot the name of the builder. But his buildings they look very tall because they have above ground basement and they have attic as well. If they can't build that kind of a building here because the attic will count into the total number of stories. So effectively, we were trying to have lower stories, still lower stories than rest of the district, but still giving them a little flexibility if the density doesn't work out or some reason the 2 stories doesn't work out, they can go. And to be honest, the residentials are going to have attics, so they're going to look like anyway 2 plus half anyway. So why not let the commercials also have it? That was the idea, really. Not that everybody's going to take advantage of everything that's there, but just to give them flexibility to have that.
So there are 3 issues on the table.
Mhm.
And in the meeting, actually, Paul Moore was the mayor pro temp, called me up and said, how do you feel about a 2-week postponement for discussion? I thought that was wise because at that moment that we only learned all this Friday, we had several landowners not happy. Some of council wasn't happy. and that just was not the time to vote. So I did recommend that we postpone it 2 weeks, and we're in that, and there's been numerous things flying around all day today as these issues get discussed, and we'll work to resolve it. And also, there's some unhappiness with the roads in front of Sally and the road next to the cotton gin.
And going all the way through to the backside, right, to Heritage Walk. I think the other issue too was there was opposition. I mean, there's the first question Charlie asks every time, is there any opposition, right? And so there was opposition, and some of the opposition had been on board up until that meeting, which was surprising. And so then that drew into question, why are you all of a sudden opposed? Well, they were opposed because what was presented was different than what all the public hearings and every step along the way had been presenting, which was the right thing to do, was to hit the pause button and go, we need to circle the wagons on this and have another conversation. And
Well,
that's where we are.
they have been actually emailing us for other things, but we kept on explaining all the things. So these were the only leftover issues that they brought up to the meeting. You
Sure.
know, it's not like we were not taking care of them.
Oh, I totally agree.
Shuba, do you know or not know? Short answer here. I thought I heard we postponed for 2 weeks for everybody to discuss it and put in their information, but there would not be a public hearing in 2 weeks. The council is going to vote
Yeah.
based on the steering committee's input and staff's input and just emails they hear, but there will not be another public hearing. And so there isn't going to be various people speaking. That was my understanding.
Yep, that's
Jefferson-
correct. It's a decision only.
Do Jefferson and Sally know that?
Yeah, it was said in the meeting that it's a decision only.
Okay, I don't recall that, but if it was, I must have just missed that.
And I bet you Sally and Jefferson don't understand that, because if
agree.
you hadn't done a lot of this, you wouldn't have picked up on that little statement, it'll be decision only.
That's why I'm asking, because I agree. I don't know that they're going to know that. Otherwise, they'll show up ready to talk about it. And if they're not able to talk about it, they'll be none too happy. So we should probably have that conversation ahead of time.
Yeah, I am trying to set up a meeting with them, both of them. So.
You don't have to post it in the,
Newspaper.
Oh, it's in the
it's-
newspaper?
No, I don't have to post 30 days. I wish I could do
Just
that.
demolition.
The hot button with Ken today.
And honestly, I have a meeting with the Cotton Gin tomorrow at 1 to
About the
discuss his issues and see if we can show him a little better why this makes sense. So 1 o'clock, if you can get me anything in the morning that we
I'll
discussed,
try it.
see if you can get it. All right, with that all said, that update on, we've done new business, we've done old business, and I think the only business left is if I could get a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Take a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Sorry that